Earlier this week, the Department of Treasury released a statement that Rod Weinzierl here, our executive director at Illinois Corn, is going to talk about updating the GREET model and hindering Illinois corn farmers' ability to play into the sustainable aviation fuel market through Inflation Reduction Act tax credits. So Rod, can you first start by just giving us the simplest overview of this very complicated release?
Right, so it's very complicated, but at a super high level, this proposed rule will lead into another proposed rule, which we can talk about in a little bit, that will give farmers the opportunity, if they do prescribed practices, to help in the production of energy, and in that production, biofuels, ethanol, the manufacturer would receive a tax credit, which then we intend or hope that that company would share that tax credit back to the farmers, which would have encouraged the farmer to do the practice. So at a super high level, that's what this is about. And so that's super complicated on a whole host of levels.
Definitely. And so they're right now saying that farmers are going to have to bundle 3 buckets of practices.
Right.
That's correct.
Right. So the 3 practice areas or bundling is a farmer would have to do all 3 of these: cover crops, no-till, and efficient use of nitrogen fertilizer for corn. For soybeans, it would just be the first 2. And you would have to do all 3 of these. Our estimates, and I'm sure someone out there is doing this, that less than 1% of the corn acres in Illinois is the farmer doing all 3 of these. We do think, though, this is for 40B, a lot of 40s here, and this tax credit sunsets at the end of 2024. So basically, nobody's going to do this, but it creates the framework or the beginning of the discussion for 45Z, which will be promulgated as a rule yet in 2024 to start in 2025. And that's really where the discussion's going to go to really fast relative to, but this is creating a conversation of that. And there's more opportunity in 45Z for flexibility and not bundling.
Very good. So we're looking ahead to that. This is laying the groundwork. I did want to mention quickly, although farmers aren't sequestering carbon, there is a path that could lower the CI score for our farmers, correct?
Yeah, so the whole conversation around ethanol plants being able to capture their CO2 and then store it or sequester it is still an open pathway for the ethanol industry. And that is actually covered in 45Q. So multiple 40 number tax credits, all of this created in the Inflation Reduction Act, and all of it coming really quick. I think from a really big picture standpoint, as farmers think about over the next couple decades, since the 30s, we've had farm programs where we've engaged with USDA on conservation practices and crop insurance and farmer safety net. We now more recently have engaged with US EPA around nutrients, nutrient loss, herbicides, rules around herbicides, more stringent rules around herbicides. This creates kind of another relationship with a really big agency called US Treasury, or the IRS, relative to how tax credits will work around farming practices. So it's a big change going on, and these laws have already been passed, and now we are creating the rules on how these laws are going to be implemented.
Perfect. Thanks, Rod. And we're going to keep continuing to learn more about this, especially as we approach the 45Z tax credit and learning more about that.
Good. Thank you.